line.
It's Wednesday morning. Of course, a pleasure to welcome you to our Global Morning Show here on Global Television. Thanks so much for tuning in and being part of our morning program. A lot's happened yesterday. Most outstanding is the fact that President Bola Tinubu held the first National Council meeting, which of course had two former presidents, physical attendance, and also, of course, our head of state joined virtually. And there were several deliberations, a vote of confidence passed on the president. The issues of the protest was analyzed, hunger, the economic hardship, and the policy of President Bola Tinubu was also being briefed to the council members. That's really a top chart on what's really happening in the country as at yesterday. And of course, the interactions is all over the newspaper this morning, which will definitely bring in that up to your speed. But of course, the day cannot also start with the fact that we have to acknowledge the importance of the day and the fact that we are having a lovely day right here from the Federal Capital Territory. It's not as rainy as it was 2-3 weeks ago. I don't know how the weather really looks like from your end, but we are here, and of course we are reaching out to you, and of course if you can hear us and see us, that means you are catching up with what is really happening right here from the nation's capital. My name is Deacon Michael, and we will be taking all along the shows today, and of course bringing you so many of the highlights of the cause of the week, and of course yesterday very much outstanding what really played out. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll have to go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll look at the highlights of yesterday's meeting with President Bola Tinubu, the former President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan was in physical attendance at the Aso Rock Villa. We'll bring that discussions and of course bring you all the newspapers, reviews and interactions, headlines, and what we have on the news. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this break. Thanks so much for still tuning in. Of course, the federal government has urged Nigerians that are dissatisfied with President Bola Tinubu's administration to wait until 2027 election. But I understand that you want to know the depth of what was the agenda of yesterday's meeting. We do really have the brief, and of course we'll bring in some of these agendas that was actually topping the discussion yesterday at the presidential villa. Our guest, Global Television political analyst, is of course joining us this morning for upward reviews and interactions on the program. Professor Ibrahim Ado. Thanks so much, Prof, for joining us this morning.
You're welcome and good day.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
You had listened to, you saw what really played out yesterday. Very unprecedented, one would say, and it was a gathering of statesmen about what is really not, to some Nigerians, the fact that some person said probably people who didn't deliver gathered also yesterday. How did you see Muhammadu Buhari joining Goodluck Jonathan and other heads of state in the meeting yesterday, first of its kind under President Tinubu's administration?
Well, thank you very much. And as the ball rolled in, we should say this is the first meeting of the Councils of State since the inauguration of the tenure of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But be as it may, the yesterday feeling was basically out of view. Out of view in the sense that we have two former presidents joining the councils. You can see vividly that none of the former head of state were there.
They connected virtually?
Yes. Connecting virtually is not as physical.
Don't you think because of distance, probably they are far from the country?
No, I know there was a very short notice for the meeting, but actually when you say this is the first councils of state meeting. It is like inauguration of being a member of the Council of State. It's supposed to be a thing of pride that this is the first in this regime, in this tenure, and I was there. So not being there and appearing visually was not a good feeling for the nation. If we want to tell ourselves the truth, it's like you are given an appointment and you are supposed to be inaugurated, and you are saying that my inauguration has to be visual. It really did not sound well to somebody. I think most of them has reasons for their withdrawals.
All right, the comment, wait until 2027 before you can actually make a change in governance, that was an outburst. Do you feel that the gathering of yesterday was in consideration of the last recent protests?
Well, we all said it when we said the protest was a right, it's not a privilege. The reactions of the security chiefs and the rest were discussed. So when they said wait till 2027, we're only saying that 2027 will be when the people will cast their vote. So who would they cast their vote for? Is it the same regime, or they are going to stay put in their houses? With what has happened during the protest, a lot of people have this feeling that, well, we have seen that nobody has our interests at heart. And since they don't have our interests at hand, we are going to wait till 2027. And if we are going to wait in 2027, there will be a lot of, if things did not change, things can change, no. But if things did not change, means that we are going to have low participants, very few participants, very few people who wants to vote.
So does it really look that this was, the protest was really about change of tenor? Because it looks that government are still very tough, are not really acknowledging the fact that it was about hunger, it was about the hardship in the country, and then trying to push the idea that it was really about the tenor change. I don't feel that is a misplaced priority to confront.
Nobody is talking of tenor change. Nobody. We should realize that there is hardship. We should admit that there is hardship. They should admit that the economy is in jeopardy. We should admit that the average Nigeria is going through psychological trauma. Unless we admit that, we should not bring the issue of, it's just like casting a ball on a field where there is no player. You can't tell us that the whole thing has to do with a tenure issue. It's not. It has nothing to do with tenure issue. Everybody is feeling it.
All right, a very big issue is that, of course, we understand that the National Council also had passed a vote of confidence on the president. Prof, I would love to get that take. Well, passing vote of confidence, does this have a way of reiterating some commitment of the council, and of course undermining that the voters are Nigerians, and in democracy, who holds the power and who ought to really pass a vote of confidence?
It is, let me put it this way. Most of the bulk during the previous regime of Buhari was on Jonathan. And most of the bulk today are on Buhari regime. So if you watch it, Jonathan was there and Buhari was there. So to clean my hands when I know I am an accused person is to pass vote of confidence on the predecessor, the present person sitting on the seat of power. They have no reason not to say they are not supporting him, either for fear of the unknown or fear of today. So to me, it is basically one fear or the other. basically, it is one fear or the other. If not, there is no reason why some group of people would just sit down and pass vote of confidence on a leader. This is a country, a society with a population of over 200 million, or about 200 million people. So few people cannot just go and pass vote of confidence on a leader. It's not done anywhere.
So really the people holds the power?
Nobody holds the power. The people has the power, not an individual. The governors consult in their state before passing vote of confidence. The members of the council consult with the people before passing vote of confidence, or do they represent the people in any way? No. So it is the people that has the right to actually cast vote of confidence on the president, not some few individuals.
Oh, thanks so much, Prof. Of course, we'll go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll be looking at the papers, the national papers, and Prof is still here with us to give us an insight and in-depth analysis on what the newspaper has for us this morning. Do stay with us on the program. We'll be right back.
welcome to Global Morning.
Many thanks for staying with us. Well, it's time for us to bring the papers for you, and we'll be looking at the front pages of the papers. This morning, we're starting with the Daily Trust. What are the stories on the Daily Trust? The big story here says Nigeria wasting rice, yam, fish amid food crisis, according to reports. We also have IG polls, opposition kicks as state electoral bodies impose new fees. 70% windfall tax burdensome, ill-timed, according to bank editors. We're looking at the Daily Trust. And we also have here NNPCL, I beg your pardon, FIRS, others frustrating National Assembly, Tinubu's government, according to the Senate panel. And also 28 killed in Oyo, Ogun Road crashes. Each senator earns 1.63 million naira monthly. Tinubu approves 300% pay rise for judicial officers. And then we have, just underneath the papers, wait till 2027 if you're not satisfied with government, according to Council of State. But I want us to look at the big story here, which is Nigeria wasting rice, yam, fish amid food crisis.
It's really laughable.
It's laughable.
It's not even available. How are we wasting? What are the
how.
statistics? If they are looking for way to dump it, they should bring it to some areas where many Nigerians are yearning for it. Prof, I don't know if the report is true, it's factual to the reality of the country where people are looking for what to eat.
Well, I don't know where they get that information from about wastage of rice, yam, and fish in Nigeria when 1 kilo of fish now is going into some running into some thousands of naira in the market. So I think you waste what you know you have in excess. But today, I don't think we have rice in excess if a bag of rice is running up to 170,000 per bag. And I don't see when 1 tuber of yam is almost going to about 5,000 naira, and somebody said there is enough to waste. Then there is a problem in such reports. Yeah, I know vividly that it would be better if people like Kuomi, who were ministers of Agric, could give account of what happened during their tenure. But we shouldn't go back there. What has happened in the agric sectors today, and I think it's now Minister of Agric and Food Security. So where's the security in the food? But to me, it's a shock that they said there is wastage in rice, yam, and fish. then I don't think anybody would have gone for hunger protest.
Well, since we don't really know who gathered this report, so we just feel that, but for it to come as a big story of the Daily Trust, that is what we really had, and that reactions right there. And you also read the issues of NMPCL, FRS, which says that they are frustrating National Assembly and Tinubu government. And that's coming from the panel from the National Assembly. We've seen this back and forth issue in the oil sector. The refinery is not working. That level of concern about it. Do you feel that they are frustrating the government to move forward?
It's not frustration. I think it's a management policy. With the management framework, the management policy has to be revisited. Just as it is, I said here that one is not even supposed. We don't even need any money or any contract for turnaround of the refineries. But there is only one single problem we have in our refineries. We don't even need $1 million to fix all the refineries. The Kaduna Petrochemical, the Warri Petrochemical, Refinery and Petrochemical, Port Harcourt, same thing. It's a simple thing that we bring the technical teams down, the engineering teams within. We don't need even foreigners to come in, and the refineries will be fixed.
All right.
There is just one single element to be fixed in the refineries, and the refineries will work to maximum.
But we've had issues about, this particular refinery from way back, issues of not just having the hands that will come, but competence and the issue of corruption in the part of our leaders. One thing that has held this refinery back.
Well, when you call corruption, when you say corruption, sometimes I would say everywhere is corrupt in the world. It is not just corruption. It's misplaced of priorities, monitoring, evaluation. We don't monitor, we don't evaluate. Implementation is poor. And we don't have these policies that will encourage somebody to say, I want to do better. Corruption is because I am run to the extreme and I need to go beyond the point where I am. That is where corruption comes in. If my incentives are not incentives, if there is no enhancement, there is no encouragement within my work frame, I must be tempted to do things that I'm not supposed to do. So most of the time, I don't just say that person is corrupt when I know that in an environment where I'm generating 1 trillion, for example, per annual, and somebody is just giving me 100,000 to go home with. I think I feel pain to say, okay, I cannot even satisfy myself, I cannot even satisfy my family, but I can give as much input as.
So you have issues with the reward system we have in different sectors?
We have issues, not only me. Everybody has issues with the rewards system.
So this takes us to, talking about the minimum wage, because that's part of our reward system for Nigerian workers. What are you saying?
When I hear minimum wage, I used to be very shocked because Nigerians earn salaries, not wages. So if assuming I'm working and somebody tell me my minimum wage is 30,000 naira, I will always be going to knock at his door at the end of the day to give me 30,000 naira and go home because it's a wage. It's not a salary. So we should look at what is a salary and what is a wage. A wage is calculated per either hour, day, or week. That is why it is a wage. A salary is something I'm earning at the end of the month. So if they are saying they are not paying people salary at the end of the month, we should know that a wage has a time frame. Are you paying me 30,000 naira per week, or you are paying me 30,000 naira a day? Am I on daily paid?
But But we clearly understand the terms that here in the part of the world, when we say wage, we refer to salaries, and it comes at the end of the
No,
month.
if we said it is a wage, then this salary and wage commission should go back home. They have no function. Because they said salary and wage commission. They did not say wage commission. We should put these things in tandem. We shouldn't look at people, face them squarely and said, oh, they don't know the meaning of what I am doing, so I can just tell them it is a wage. A wage is something I'm earning either per hour or per day, so you just give it to me and let me go. And I can decide not to come to work for you tomorrow because it's a wage.
Thank you very much, Prof. We'll take our next story now, the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Big story we have here says, 2 years after states under-enroll as 90% Nigerians still pay out of pocket. We're talking about National Health Insurance Act. 2 years after states under-enroll as 90% of Nigerians still pay out of pocket. Reps upbraid WAEC for failing to account for 5 billion naira calculators. Benue farmers panic over persisting drought. 16 die and 17 injured in Ibadan, multiple road crashes we see on the Daily Trust newspaper. Chairman affirms 26 embattled Rivers lawmakers as APC members. Customs, Nigeria's food imports surged 92.28% to 920.54 billion naira in Q1 2024. Before I take the other stories, Prof, let me come to you on this food importation. Food imports, the foods that we import, there's a surge here. It used to be, I think, about not up to 95.28%. That's a whole lot there, considering where we are and how we're encouraging local production and local consumption. What are your takes, seeing the amount we have, accumulated in just the first quarter of 2024?
When people talk of this food importation and food crisis, just notice something that has happened some good years ago. A state in Nigeria, only one single state in Nigeria, or probably let's be very open to it, let's have a wider dimension, can feed the whole of Nigeria. And I can tell you for free that about 3 to 4 states in Nigeria alone can feed the whole of Africa. When we came during Jonathan and we brought a blueprint on agriculture, we were talking of mechanized farms, establishing one mechanized farm, which would have cost the government just 12.5 billion. And we calculated to say when we have a wider spread of those mechanized farms, Nigeria can spend about 375 billion for every Nigerian to have chicken for the next 20 to 30 years at the fixed price of 250 naira to 300 naira. And that was what Jonathan actually looked at the blueprint. And that year, the Minister of Agric, Akumi, was allocated 600 billion. And we felt that 375 billion will actually be spent on mechanized farms in Nigeria so that every Nigerian will have chicken, fish, foodstuff. At a bag of rice is not supposed to be more than 1,500 from that blueprint. Only for him to distribute handsets to local farmers and calling them to come and collect 1 bag of fertilizer. Nobody has discussed that issue up to today. So when we blame the executive sometimes, I also say, where has all this money gone to? And why is nobody talking about it? So we plug ourselves into this kind of situations where nobody wants to look at anything. And the feelings I got was that Akumi was being applause for doing nothing. To me, for doing nothing, because what the handset you give to these farmers are not more than 5,000 or 10,000 naira per one. The bag of fertilizer is how much, and what were the farmers doing with these fertilizers? Is it the fertilizer that brought the implement? Is it part of the mechanized farms? Is it part of the land that are supposed to be acquired for mechanized farming? What is the essence of this? But it was being unnecessarily glorified. So we importing food. How can you import food to a country that is supposed to sustain itself, that is supposed to produce food and even export? We are supposed to be saying by now that we generated billions of dollars from food export, not import. Look at the case of NIFO. We don't have even palm oil for ourselves. But Malaysia, who we gave palm seedlings to, today are the largest producers of palm. Where are we heading to? We no longer have rubber. But go back to countries like Indonesia and the rest. Our rubbers are there. So we are having issues. We are drawing back by the day. And the more we draw back, the more we import. So we are only a consuming nation, not a producing nation, even as fertile as our land are.
Prof, there are also consideration about our population. Now, some persons are saying that we have statistics of the birth issue over population is not matching with the food we have, like the productions we have. Are you bothered about that concern?
Has our population occupied our agro-land system? Are you saying there is no farmlands again in Nigeria because of population? We have people we have not made to come into the productive sector, the industrial sector, who they would have been very grateful. I will tell you something. A young man came here for an interview to get a job, and he came back to me and told me, yes, I was successful, but they said I should bring 300,000 to get appointment later. And I said, what for? He said, I have 200,000. I can give it to him if you can assist me. I said, go back home. Do this, do that. Just plant vegetables and tomatoes and the rest. Today, this is something that happens about 6 years ago. Today, he has a house of his own. He's married. He has a car of his own. He has about 5 delivering vehicles. Just from 200,000. When his mates has not even gotten accommodation, because the less accommodation you can get inside the city of Abuja will just cost you about 2 million naira. They have not gotten accommodation, but he has a house of his own. He's married. He has a car of his own. He has 5 delivering vehicles.
So there are some places that are untapped.
A lot of the potentials in Nigeria are just 3 to 5% tapped. 95% of Nigeria potentials are open. Whereas in Europe, about 97 to 98 of the potentials are already tapped. People are only keen into 2 to 3%. So Nigeria is just an open market.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Now let's look at the issue of National Health Assurance Act. We're told that even after 2 years, some states have under-enrolled, and as 90% of Nigeria still pay out of pocket. And then we have a chart here where we see that the cost of healthcare has gone up by over 200% in the last 1 year, with most Nigerians unable to pay out of their pocket. Healthcare, particularly in Nigeria, has been an issue of concern, with doctors migrating. Healthcare facilities lack of equipment, and the least we can ask, or an average Nigerian would want, is access to this healthcare, access to be able to, get medicine, see a practitioner, or get consultation. What are your takes on this issue, knowing that, this is burdensome?
Well, I have just one thing to say here. Indeed, we have the National Health Insurance Scheme, which to me is just another pipeline, conduit line to siphon people's money. But I don't think anything tangible is happening there. Secondly, let's be very objective. This is a country where foreigners were coming for medical tourism in the 70s, in the 80s. And now we're going out of here for medical tourism. What happened? The medical line chain was broken, mostly in the late 80s and early 90s. And we're stagnated because we don't look at our professional indices, we don't evaluate the professionals, we don't monitor the health service sector, which, if we want to look at it, health and medical security is under the right of every citizen. My well-being is supposed to be a state concern, but that is not what is happening. Then let's look at the cost today. We are also importing medical equipment. We are importing almost everything that has to do with medicine, whereas we have what we call medical engineers. What are they recognized? No. The few of them we have are not even recognized here. Two, what was the cost of our foreign forests just 2 years ago? I think you can exchange 500 naira to $1. Today, it is about 1,005 today, 1,006 tomorrow. And if you are a medical practitioner and you want to inject your funds into medical practice in Nigeria, it's not going to be 100%. Is just like you are trying to balance equations to say, okay, my services is just 100% higher than what it was 2 years ago. That means you will not be able to service your staff, you will not be able to give services to people, and the rest. And there is nothing actually happening here that you will say, okay, this is what I have achieved from my practice. If you go to collect if you go to evaluate all private schools in Abuja today, most of the private school practitioners are already either closing down or selling off because parents cannot afford school fees any longer. So many things are setting in, and these people are not concerned because they feel their children are not schooling in Nigeria, they don't have anything to do with it. Let the poor go on with the headache. If you go to the public institutions, like the public medical facilities, you find out that the medical practitioners are over-exhausted. When you have to consult for more than 50, 100 people a day, you are no longer an organized person as a medical practitioner. And here we have even lowered it that we don't even have anything to do with psychologists. Most of the problems that we take to the hospitals are actually psychological issues.
Everybody run to the hospital.
So you go to the hospital, they don't even ask you to go and see a psychologist. So you say, this is my problem, and a medical doctor will attend to you. So, and the medical practitioners are actually over-exhausted, overstressed, and you expect them to do same thing every day, and they have their own personal issues. So if you look at any medical practitioner in Nigeria in the public sector, he has a psychological problem.
Particularly, maybe that would be one of the reasons why we have maybe brain drain, and we have doctors leaving, migrating the country. And then I just want you to let us in on your opinion on the policy by President Bola Tinubu to stop doctors from, medical practitioners particularly, from migrating.
I don't see where you can stop anybody from migrating, because one, we are not in a society where you said, okay, I'm a medical practitioner and the state took care of me. When I say took care of me, they paid my tuition, they gave me accommodation, they were part and parcel of people that built me to where I am. So I have to pay back one way or the other. But this is a country where your parents may have even go on borrow to make sure you become a practitioner, and somebody will tell you you can't go anywhere to practice, you have to practice here. How? You can't restrain anybody. It's not a place where, it's not a place for him to decide who practice here and who don't practice here.
But we'll still have that case of people moving out of the country. So what should be done to help young practitioners? Because most people, once they're done with medical school and all that, we see them flying out of the country, leaving for greener pastures. In what direction should the government look in terms of healthcare and the well-being of practitioners?
Build your system. The moment you build your system and you develop your system, and the system is running, everybody wants to come back. Do you think they are happy staying outside the country? Nobody is happy staying there. The moment the system is functional, everybody wants to come back home. Everybody wants to come back home. Nobody, okay, look at it. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when you go to study abroad and you had always jumping up to come back to Nigeria. Because as you come back, you finish your NYC, there's a job for you. There is accommodation for you. Everything works for you. Everybody wants to consult and listen to you. But today, you come back and you said you have you even have a PhD, or you are a professor. They just said, look at him, this wretched fellow. So nobody wants to even look at the academics. There is a slogan in the street when they said education is a scam. Academic is a scam. You understand me? I say everybody listening to such slogans. These are not the slogans before. The slogans before is, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a medical doctor, I want to be a journalist, I want to be an accountant, I want to be this. Children don't tell you that now. What the children tell us now is, I want to be a politician. And when you say, why do you want to be a politician? I want to be a billionaire. It is either I want to be a politician or I want to be a billionaire. That is what comes from our young chaps.
All right, Prof. I'm most bothered because when you look at the budget of 2024 and the statistics of over 4.6% of allocation was allocated to the Ministry of Health. It means that we've been having a lot of investment in that sector. But you go to our health centers, primary healthcare centers, it's nothing to write them about. And some of these, we've seen doctors fighting very hard, even in the environment, to work. Some of them are ready to work. You've admitted that. But they have also seen the fact that some of these investment and allocations to our health sector is not in any way making any change. Over years, you can count and count and count. What do you think is a problem? Because I understand you said corruption is in every sector, but we ought to feel that in health sector, which has to do with lives, the managers of our resources ought to have, be very sensitive to in approach.
Okay, if you say you have about 4 to 5% of the budget allocated to the health sector.
That's over 1.3 trillion naira.
So, what is the population of Nigeria?
Do you feel it's not enough?
It's not enough.
But can we really see what 1.3 trillion has done? I mean, can we really feel the impact of what has been
You
allocated
can't
to?
feel the impact of what is not enough. You can't throw just one fish in the ocean and think that everybody is going to feed on that. What is the impact of 1.8 trillion on a population of 200 million people? Assuming everybody goes to the private sector and said, I'm seeking medical, then you will know that 1.8 trillion is nothing to write home about. Talk of overhead, talk of salaries, talk of every other thing. It's not enough.
All right, Prof. Ibrahim Ado. Of course, we just have to hold on a break for the AM news. And once we're back from the AM news, other conversations with the newspaper this morning continues with, of course, still Professor Global Television, political analyst, who have been with us from the more early morning hours of the program. Of course, do not forget the fact that shortly after the AM news, we'll be bringing other discussions just to build on the program this morning. Do stay with us. Let's get to be joined by Queen for the AM news. We'll be right back.
around the world to the Global AM News on Global Television. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365. President Bola Tinubu is currently chairing the meeting of the Council of State at the I'm taking the second Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Global AM News. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365. As Nigerians join the rest of the world to mark this year's World Organs Donations Day, experts at the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, are looking on Nigerians to imbibe the spirit of organ donation to help save lives across the country. Addressing journalists at the Dantata Dialysis Center of the hospital, doctors also told Kano residents that the center does not buy organs, but it encourages people who may wish to donate. The Abuja Muslim Forum, AMF, has donated the first zakat of the organization in the territory. Speaking on the modality for the disbursement of the zakat, Malam Ibrahim Idris, coordinating secretary of AMF, says the organization got some amount of money but took a different style in disbursing the funds. He says the wayfarer's share was given to the National Union of Road Transport Workers from Mabushi branch to be shared to those who may be stranded. Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State on Tuesday begged youth to embrace peace for needed development of the state. Alia made the appeal during his broadcast to mark this year's World International Youth Day celebration. He says discussions are ongoing with all government ministries, agencies and departments geared towards creating avenues for youth engagement and empowerment. Alia urged the youth to continue to support and cooperate with his administration as it navigates the challenging times and strive to implement policies that will bring about meaningful and lasting change. The judges dismissed the judgment of the Federal High Court and ordered Gombe APC to pay a fine of 200,000 naira. Senator Goje had in July 2023 filed a stay of execution appeal against the judgment, which upheld his dismissal from the APC executives from the Kashere ward of Akko local government area of the state. The judges dismissed the judgment of the Federal High Court and ordered Gombe APC to pay the fine. President Bola Tinubu has approved the national policy on health workforce migration to address the challenges facing Nigeria's health human resources. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pati, disclosed this on his X handle. Pati says the policy is more than just a response on the ongoing exodus of healthcare professionals, but a comprehensive strategy to manage, harness, and reverse health workers' migration. Reactions have emerged following a proposal by the Patriots, a group led by Chief Emeka Anyaoku, urging President Bola Tinubu to initiate the process of drafting a new constitution through a National Constituent Assembly. In his reaction, elder statesman Alhaji Tanko Yakasai, who is also a member of the Patriots, in a statement urged the president to proceed cautiously. Yakasai, who emphasized the importance of broad consultations and careful consideration, warned that neglecting these steps could lead to national chaos and instability. Renowned constitutional lawyer Professor Awalu Yadudu also expressed reservations about the call for a new constitution and cautioned that any reworking of the fundamental document must conform to constitutional processes. He warned that deviating from this path could lead to chaos and disorder in the country. President Bola Tinubu has signed the Judicial Office Holders' Salaries and Allowances Bill into law. The Special Advisor to President on Senate Matters, Senator Bashir Lado, disclosed this in a statement in Abuja. The National Assembly had in June approved a bill that grants a 300% salary increase for judicial officers at the federal and state levels. The federal government has extended invitations to local innovators, manufacturers and research institutions to present their cutting-edge solutions that can enhance national security through the Defense Innovation Challenge. The Defense Minister of State, Bello Matawale, stated this at a press briefing ahead of the 68th anniversary celebration of the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria in Abuja. Kikelomo Okere has details.
The Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria, DICON, according to the federal government, has since been at the forefront of Nigerians' defense manufacturing, contributing significantly to national security and technological advancement. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, says the new DICON Act 2023 has the potential to significantly contribute to Nigerians' national development and security by boosting foreign exchange earning through local production of defense equipment, creating jobs for skilled Nigerians, and reducing capital flights to foreign nations.
Vehicles, artillery, and other defense equipment. Despite facing challenges, DICON persevered, driven by its commitment to self-reliance and national security. DICON's 60 years journey is a testament to Nigerians' commitment to self-reliance in defense production, through collaboration and innovation.
The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Ibrahim Kana, and the Director General of DICON, Major General Anid Edet, says it is now mandatory for the government and its agencies to procure military hardware locally, except in instances when it is not available.
And at the moment, we have reached advanced stage. In fact, we're at the point of signing an MOU between the MOD and the Ministry of Steel. That MOD will see to the reactivation of 1 or 2 plants in Ajakuta. Those plants will be solely responsible for production of equipment that are relevant to the military industrial complex.
It's the first of its kind happening around Nigeria here and in most parts of Africa, and it is made to harness and deliberate on technology and innovation ideas. We are going to bring youth that are talented around Nigeria. We have heard of cases in many states in Nigeria where youth are already innovatively making things in the informal sector.
The DICON 60th anniversary celebration holding on the 14th to 15th August will present a platform for about 150 foreign countries and nationals to showcase defense equipment exhibition. Kikelomo Okere.
The cost is expensive in the rural areas and similarly out of reach of the common man, leaving them at the mercy of patent medicine vendors who have little access to commodities. As a result, a Center for International Development and Research is bridging the gap by providing health financing facilities to patent vendors. Anthony Momodu tells us more.
There is no gainsaying the poor healthcare services in the country. Thus, the need for urgent improvement in the sector. Speaking at a healthcare collaborative event, Dr. Uchenna Igbokwe says interventions like the ASR key is key for the provision of quality healthcare services for vulnerable Nigerians.
Upwards of 60% or more of Nigerians, their first point of call when they have fever, when their child has a cough, is a patent medicine vendor. So what does that mean? It means we need to bring them into the system rather than shutting them out. It means we need to work with the regulator.
There are a few reasons. One of them is the fact that the PPMVs and the community pharmacists present the first line of defense for healthcare in this country. And if we understand that a significant population of Nigeria inhabits the areas populated by these CPs and PPMVs, i.e. the semi-urban and the rural areas, we know that this is an opportunity to make significant impact in healthcare and access to healthcare financing for these PPMVs.
Other stakeholders and development partners expressed confidence in the collaborative effort in the sector to better the lot of patent vendors and poor Nigerians.
That the community pharmacists and the PPMVs can provide expanded services for healthcare. This model that is launched today is on the PACS project, promoting accreditation for community health services. And so we want to provide, or the package will provide financing for these facilities that have been trained.
However, some medicine vendors spoke on their plight and the need for support.
People to bring more thing for us, that we have getting some money to buy medicine and take care of our patients' house. This medicine is good medicine. They have NEDA number, they have expiring dates. Any medicine that you have seen here, a new product.
Like last week ago, I was sober with a malaria, and I come here, I discuss everything with him. He have killed me, and I take it. I was here, I already recovered. Alhamdulillah. Okay, I go to hospital. The bill is over to me. I can't pay it. Understand?
It is hoped the health sector will benefit from the emerging efforts and policies of government in improving the healthcare sector. Anthony Momodu reporting for Global.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, says the force is on the trail of those responsible for violent protests across the country. The Inspector General of Police disclosed this at the Nigerian Police Force Youth Summit to celebrate the International Youth Day in Abuja. Kikielo Okere has details.
August 12 every year is set aside by the United Nations to be celebrated as the International Youth Day. At this year's celebration coming immediately after 10 days nationwide protest, it is an avenue for the Nigerian Police Force at this youth summit to dialogue with stakeholders, especially youth, on the vital roles of youth. August 12 every year is set aside by the United Nations to be celebrated as the International Youth Day. At this year's celebration coming immediately after 10 days nationwide protest, it is an avenue for the Nigerian Police Force at this youth summit to dialogue with stakeholders, especially youth, on the vital roles of youth in governance and national security. Speaking at the Nigerian Police Force Youth Summit, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, disclosed that the police only targeted a specific shop within the NLC building, which was linked to a prime suspect in the End Bad Governance protest. The police boss also denied allegation by the Nigerian Labour Congress that police raided its head office in Abuja.
I won't be able to share the details yet because we are still on the trail of these individuals. Some of them are already out of the country. They immediately escaped. Some of them are even foreigners. One of them was traced to the Labour House the other day, and I was just wondering why the noise about the raid on Labour House when the police didn't raid Labour House. We raided only a shop that the individual was using as a front, and we have been monitoring his activities. He was very active in the Sudan crisis.
The President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was represented by the Minister of Youth, Jamila Biu Ibrahim, says youth empowerment is not just a future investment, but a present-day imperative.
To review, but there really wasn't much of a change. But then we realized some gaps like youth well-being, to be well addressed, and to that effect, the committee that is reviewing it has actually included or recommended we establish a youth well-being department in the Ministry of Youth Development to address mental health, sexual and reproductive health.
Beyond the recent protests, the emerging challenges in the country remains a source of worry. The police authority says forums like this will become a regular part of their program meant to address trust deficit with the populace. Kike Lomo Ukeri, Global Television News.
The federal government says many African countries have now started procurement of arms and ammunition from the Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria, DICON. It says the feat was made possible sequel to the new DICON Act 2023, which provides the potential to significantly contribute to Nigeria's national development and national security by boosting foreign exchange earnings. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawalle, stated this at the ministry's headquarters, Abuja, when he briefed journalists on the activities lined up for the 60th anniversary of DICON and the launch of the maiden edition of the Africa Defense Industries Conference. The Gombe State Commissioner of Health, Dr. Habu Dahiru, has announced that the State Public Health Emergency Operations Center has been placed on alert following confirmed and suspected cases of diphtheria in Hewangana Ward, Gombe. Reports state that diphtheria caused by Corynebacterium diphtheriae is a vaccine-preventable disease characterized by severe throat and respiratory infections that could lead to death if untreated. Dahiru disclosed that the state has recorded 3 suspected cases and 1 confirmed case of diphtheria. Floods have wreaked havoc in several communities in Jigawa, Yobe, Bauchi, and Kebbi states, submerging many houses and farmlands. The incidents have also left many displaced, even as major highways have been damaged, making mobility extremely difficult in some of the affected areas. The National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Kano Zonal Command, has received 12 rescued victims of human trafficking. The agency's Zonal Commander Abdullahi Babale stated this in Kano while receiving the victims rescued by the State Police Command. Babale says the State Police arrested 3 suspects, Shafiu Salisu, 25, of Bachirawa Quarters, Kano, Rebecca Adebayo, 22, of Kwara State, and Mujibat Olagoke, who is 27, from Oyo State, in connection with the trafficking. He noted that the rescued victims, aged between 15 and 40 years, were all females. The Jigawa state government has lifted the curfew in 8 local government areas where looting and destructions took place during the End Bad Governance protest. The State Commissioner for Information, Youth, Sports, and Culture, Honorable Sagir Musa, disclosed this after the state security meeting chaired by Governor Umar Namadi. 3 people have been confirmed killed by flood, while houses, farmlands, and other valuables worth billions of naira have been washed away by a downpour that lasted 3 days in villages and communities across 3 local government areas of Bauchi State. The Director General of State Emergency Management Agency in Bauchi, Masood Ali, who gave the confirmation during visits to the affected communities by a delegation led by the Secretary to the state government, Barrister Ibrahim Kashim. The Acting Executive Secretary, National Universities Commission, Chris Meyaki, has identified a poor governance system, academic corruption, and inadequate funding as some of the challenges confronting Nigerian universities. He spoke while delivering the 2024 registry at Babcock University in Ileshan, Remo, Ogun State. The lecture was titled Registry Operations and Technology Leveraging to Optimize the Registry Operations in Alignment with University Best Practices. Meyaki noted that Nigeria's university system had in the last 3 decades experienced a decline compared to preceding decades when remarkable achievements were recorded. You're watching the Global AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the AM News returns, there'll be more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, this is Global Television, bringing you live broadcasts of the AM News. In business, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission has called on other states of the Federation to imitate best practices to replicate the feat of Lagos State in internally generated revenue records. The RMAFC directed the call to other states during a research visit by the Commission to Lagos House Ikeja. State Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Abayomi Oluyomi, said the state achieved a significant milestone in IGR, increasing it by 70% over the past 5 years. The Central Bank of Nigeria announced the reintroduction of several key economic reports, stating its commitment to transparency and accountability in the nation's economy. These reports include the Purchasing Managers Index, Business Expectation Survey, Inflation Expectation Reports, and other critical macroeconomic indicators. According to a statement by the acting Director of Corporate Communications at CBN, Sidi Ali, the move is part of the CBN's ongoing data enhancement initiative and is designed to provide stakeholders with timely and accurate insights into Nigeria's economic performance. On the foreign scene, the FBI has opened an investigation into allegations from the Trump campaign that it was targeted by hackers working for the Iranian government. A Trump campaign spokesman said the documents were illegally obtained by foreign resources hostile to the United States. Iranian officials have denied any connection to the hack, and the U.S. government has not formally accused Iran. The FBI is also looking into whether Iranian hackers targeted the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris campaign. In sports, Argentine star Lionel Messi was ruled out by Inter Miami coach Gerardo Martino for the defending Champions League Cup knockout at the reigning MLS champion Columbus. Messi remains sidelined after suffering a right ankle injury a month ago in Argentina's 1-0 victory over Colombia in the Copa America final. Messi has not yet trained with his Miami teammates since escaping a walk-in boat. President Bola Tinubu has joined other basketball enthusiasts to applaud the Tigers head coach Rena Wakama following the team's laudable outing at the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, which led to her being voted the best coach of the women's basketball tournament, an honor Tinubu says is well deserved. And that's it on the Global AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching. See you again.
toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
The struggle, the ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Many thanks for sister with us here on Global Television. This is Global Morning, and of course, before the break, we were looking at the Nigeria's Daily, looking at the papers we have this morning and some of the big headlines and stories. And let's now get to Leadership newspaper to further the conversation this morning. The big story right there has it that judges, others get pay rise, likely judicial reforms. That can be found on page 4 of Leadership newspaper. Right after the story has it that Tinubu okays 300% salary increase for judicial workers. Lawyers held the new package. It is a significant milestone, says Senator Nado. Also have another big story right there. Bank directors ask NAS to revisit the 70% windfall tax. Nigeria senator earns 1.1 million naira as monthly salary, says RMFC. FG forfeit 188.37 billion naira to removal of duties on food. This is on page 29 of the Leadership newspaper. Die as flood ravages Bauchi communities. You can still find the story right there. High operating costs, forex insecurity threatens $70 billion ICT industry growth. Afenifere condemns calls for military takeover. These are likely the big stories right away on the Leadership paper. Of course, we've seen a picture of President Tinubu and former President Muhammadu Buhari. Yesterday, shortly after the council meeting, But what really standing out right here for us to discuss is about the wage or the salary for the senators in the National Assembly. It has always been a controversial issue, and a consideration of the fact that how much is National Assembly members earning, and also looking at the fact that some persons said their allowances and all of those allocations, that they ought to make proper sacrifice. That was why the House of Reps had to, slash their salary at 50%, and many Nigerians are saying it's not still enough. We've seen that it's just a salary. How many months are you doing this? What about the allowances and all this consideration? Prof, I would love to get your take in issues of enumeration for the National Assembly members. Some people are even proposing, why don't you have people part-time National Assembly where you come in to sit and at the end of the day you go back? Are we spending so much to service National Assembly, Prof, from your own end?
Yeah, we are spending much in servicing the members of National Assembly. And if we look at their duty, the main function is they are coming here as legislators to enact laws, to review laws, and to look at reforms in some of these sectors. If you are going to build a policy framework, you should also understand that you're also representing the people. And these people don't even know the policies. They don't know even the reforms that take place in governance. They also don't know even the new bills and laws you have been passing for people to implement. It is not the members that implement these policies. It is the people. And these people elected you to represent them. So your main duty is to come to Abuja. You are not an Abuja politician. You have to come to Abuja maybe once in every fortnight to debate on the things that the administrators of the National Assembly has been able to put in place and sent to you, transmitted to you. So you have a constituent office where you and the people, the grassroots, has to interact on these issues. So every member, elected member, is supposed to operate from the constituent office. And that is why they have a constituent office, and that is why they are being paid for the maintenance of those constituent office. It's part of the packages they are enjoying. It's not to sit in Abuja and start fighting for how to become a committee chairman and become the contractors, because they also double as the contractors.
All right, let's quickly just get to the Nigerian News Direct. Nigerian News Direct has the big story. Jonathan, Buhari, NGF, others pass vote of confidence on President Tinubu amidst economic downturn. A writer to the story has it that Council of State warns against the insurrections and support democratic process. Finance Minister presents update on economy and light progress under Tinubu. Don't use Labour Party to promote insurrection and destabilize democracy. Abure warns Ajero. That is on page 21 of the Nigerian News Direct. 70% windfall tax detrimental to financial stability growth of banks. That's coming from bank directors. Of course, we also have equity market so far 279 billion loss. That is on page 7 of the Nigerian News Direct. WAEC grilled over 6 billion deficit, 5 billion loan for calculators. Also have Lagos boosts IGR by 70% in 5 years. Target higher revenue growth. These on page 2 of the Nigerian News Direct paper. Still there are pictures of Governor of Rivers, Governor of Imo, Governor of Lagos, playing out right there at the presidential villa yesterday from the council meeting. Let's get to other, like the Punch paper. Over to you, Queen.
Yes, on the front page of the Punch that we're looking at this morning, big story says, federal government blocks 83 billion naira protest funds, arrest political collaborators. Government uncovers $50 million crypto funds, blocks 4 digital wallets containing $38 million. Police to declare foreign agents wanted, traces 4 billion naira to Kano, Abuja, Katsina political big wigs. This story right here of the federal government blocking 83 billion naira protest funds and arresting political collaborators. I want to know the investigations that were made to ascertain if these funds were actually for protest or not, for protest. And then we've seen that the protest has ended. It's been 10 days now. 10 days, we had that protest for 10 days, and the protest has ended. We had the president's address us. What are your takes on these figures and the political bigwigs in Kano being apprehended?
I will just say something here. Some of the time when the security operatives comes with information that are not glaring just because they want to make the public understand that they are up and doing and they have the situation under their control, is something we have to stop if we have to move forward. They don't know what to do to manage issues, and they come out to get innocent people involved in issues that are not supposed to be involved. I don't think these protesters were having even 1 billion naira as at the time the protest started. That you will now said
83.
After the protest you said you have blocked account of 83 billion. How? Where? You understand me? This is a country where we were sitting down one day and the State Security Service evaded somebody in Kano and said they have arms and ammunition, closed down Wonderland, closed down Amigo and the rest. Up to today, that is the end of that case. Nobody asked questions. And I don't know how we continue to bring propaganda into security issues or into national issues. This is just, to me, it's just mere propaganda. And if they have arrested anybody, it's just chasing ghosts. At the end of the day, we don't keep records. That is the understanding of our security chiefs. We don't keep records, so we can arrest anybody, keep the person in detention, after some time release him and tell him to go, and everybody forget about what has happened or else. And that is where the issue, where the foreigners look at us as not serious-minded people or a corrupt nation or society, because at the end of the day, he said, money passed by. That is why the man, or there was one powerful person up there that just called for the release, and the person was just released, eased out. Today, we have issues because we are not actually having mechanisms to implement most of the things we feel we have to.
You'd agree with me that during the protest, we see, like particularly in Kano State and some parts of the north, where people were flying Russian flags. We've had analysts, people come here say that there are people who are behind the protest, people who are actually sponsoring the protest, because we had quite a number of people flying those flags, and we know for those flags to be assembled, sewn, and the materials got in, it costs money. So are you still of the opinion that these are mere propagandas and there are no sponsors?
When we were having what we call Nigeria as a nation of trust and unity, peace, or when a governor or an executive visit an area, everybody holding the Nigerian flag, even the primary school, elementary school children. Today, nobody wants to hold the Nigerian flag any longer because we have been disenfranchised as people. If they fly the Russian flag, just as the IG said that that means treasonable felony, and also the Chief of Defense Staff said that is treasonable felony. It's not a treasoning case. I am not satisfied. I'm not too sure I am a Nigerian any longer. My interests are not being protected. These are the things these people are telling us. And if you say treasonable felony for flying flags, what of the so many organizations and hotels in Nigeria where you see foreign flags? What are they doing there? Are these owners of these hotels, churches, and other organizations, are they being owned by the Americans or the Britons or the flags they fly? No. So if you say you are going to charge people who were on protest and carrying other nations' flags for treasonable felony, also arrest the hotel owners and churches and mosques and other organization owners who are flying foreign flags. Can you see a Nigerian flag in UK, in a hotel, or in Germany or in American? So why are they not after those people?
Rightly said, Prof. Let's look at other stories on the front page of the Punch and bring to your notice. EFCC donates 50 billion naira crime proceeds to NEL Fund. NNPCL postpones Port Harcourt refinery kickoff sixth time. 4.2 trillion naira foreign MOUs signed under Tinubu, according to reports. And then we have just underneath the big story, TUC backs 5 million naira monthly pay for judges. 15 confirmed dead in Oyo multiple crashes. And also NJC to select Ariwola's successor on Friday. And these are the stories we have on the front pages of, on the front page rather, of the Punch newspaper. Our next story will be the Sun, Daily Sun. Michael Bikan will bring to us.
Big story on Daily Sun, mass protest. No to unconstitutional change of government. A writer to the story says Council of State berates protesters asking for Tinubu's ouster backs president. You can find the story on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. NUC identifies problems of Nigeria's tertiary institutions. List poor funding, misgovernance, corruption. Page 26 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Bishops demand review of economic policies. Say hunger triggered and bad governance protest. Tragedy in Oyo, multiple auto crash. Page 4. Tinubu signs bill to raise salaries of judicial officers by 300%. Federal government to enroll 11,000 Amajiri children. You can find that on page 20 of the Daily Sun. What's really standing out is, the repetition of the judicial officer's salary increased by 300%. Prof, the other time you're asking that the wages or the salaries of workers are not enough. And attempts by federal government to review the judicial, would these arrests, because sometimes judicial was the hope of a common man, but some persons are lacking that confidence as we speak to you now. Justice have been delayed, conflicting court orders, all of these outplay from our judiciary, and it forces us to now ask what is really happening in the judicial. And then some people said probably their wages, their salaries are not enough. So looking at a 200% increase, would these really solve the problems where judges will have to do the right thing and not delay justices in the country?
Well, the three arms of government is the judiciary, the executive, and the legislation. it is, to me, to say that the president has no right to increase the salary of judiciary staffs. It is not his duty. It's not supposed to be part of his duty at all. Meaning that as an executive, you are also intruding into the judiciary. The judiciary has their budget. They are supposed to know and outline a management system in which they manage their affairs. And again, we have the Fiscal Commission, and we also have the Salary and Wages Commission. The management of the judiciary, the Fiscal Commission, and the Salary and Wages Commission are supposed to sit down and say this, because this is where they say the executives controls every power in Nigeria. If I have the power to increase the salary of the judiciaries and make it public, means that I also have the power to control the judiciary. And what people are afraid of is not the far cry of the judiciary is not well paid because they are, that is why they cannot disperse justice. It is the intrusion of the executives into judiciary. That is, I think that is what people should be crying about. But I appoint, as a state governor, you appoint the chief judge of the state. In the federal, you also appoint the chief justice of the nation as an executive. Then you have already compromised the judiciary itself. So it's not an arm of its own. Let them be independent. That is when we can now say the judiciary are not doing their job or they are doing their job. But for now, they are not independent.
All right, let's quickly run to Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune, a big story on the Nigerian Tribune. Constitution review. Reps move to reduce costs of elections. That's on page 11. Right after that story, it has it that the push for conduct of all election in one day. Also have it, Lagos, Ibadan Express accidents, 16 killed, 17 injured in Ibadan, 12 burnt to death in Algeria. Nigeria's large growing out of school population has huge consequences. And that's coming from UNICEF on page 1 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Police personnel to now write promotion exams on page 26 of the Nigerian Tribune. And a couple of other stories, local government autonomy, Ocean Assembly passes amendment bills and the rights. Each senator earns 1 million monthly, says RMFC. But the big story right there is the fact that reps are right making moves to reduce the cost of election, pushing for conduct of all election in one day. Looking at over 360 federal constituency, 109 central district, 36 states, state for governorship elections. Prof, do you feel that INEC, the institution that we have, we've been battling with, other elections, even when they are on separate days, do they have the capacity, as it looks like, to conduct election in a one day, just to reduce cost? Because when you look at the statistics of how much it takes Nigeria to conduct election that at the end of the day, people still get to court, and then issues of technicalities and all of this consideration are also raised. Do you feel that having to conduct election in a day by the same commission would address the many fraud and issues we've been having to deepen the democracy in the country?
No, I don't think so. And this is my take. Are we going to do electronic voting? Because if they are going to do electronic voting, good. And what are the systems applicable when doing, not the beavers, because the beavers is already a failure. Are we introducing a system where we have electronic voting, where I can be in the comfort of my house and vote, and my vote is a credible vote? If that will take place, then I will say yes. But if that is not going to take place, I will also say no. It will not happen. Because when there is electronic voting and I can sit in the comfort of my house and vote, because my smart card already has all information about myself, then I know underage is not going to be voting, because that vote will immediately be cancelled. Then I know that there is no fraud, because my vote goes straight to the database and the winner will come. That will only enhance confidence and trust in the people, and we can finish collating the vote within some few hours, because it's just technical. Nobody is going there to count votes. Nobody is going to say, from this polling booth, we have this. And so the returns and the results at the end of the day, everybody knows that this party or this particular candidate has won the election.
Thank you very much, Professor Ibrahim, for joining us on our newspaper review. On that note, this is where we draw the curtain on our newspaper reviews. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we will be evaluating government reforms with our guests. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle as he's trying.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks. It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
the legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle as to strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has undergone several reforms in a way to develop the nation. About what many may still ask, just like Oliver Twist, is never enough. He had promised to take on the nation to another level. 1 year down the line, there are still agitations on some economic policies of this administration. It concern many agitating to ease the hardship in the country. The young people took to the streets earlier this month in a protest of End Bad Governance, which drew the attention of many. The recent council meeting yesterday at the presidential villa was also the top of the agenda was the issue of the protests and some of the economic policies of this administration. But to what end does the reforms mean for Nigerians is what we'll be looking at the program right away. Our guest is a former youth leader of the Khan International, a pastor and a leader, Apostle Andy Yeneme. He's live here on the studio to join the conversation this morning. Good morning, Apostle. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
All right, on a quick one. 1st to 10th of August, people took to street to end bad governance and protests. Do you feel that the youth have endured a lot in the country and probably they're not comfortable about how things are working? What is your assessment of that exercise, that demonstration, the first 10 days of the month?
Well, I think the right thing the youths did was to come out and make their pains and their plight to be known. But it's now left for the government to have positively received a good feedback. It's two different things. The youths did the protest, did the government receive it in a good faith? Or maybe some people turned it political. But I think one of the greatest things to do is protest, but in a peaceful manner. But also the government side should be able to get a true feedback of why did they protest, why did they come out to the streets? Because from my perspective, I think the government were a little bit on the defensive side. And once that happens, you won't listen really to the plight of the youths. So I think, I don't know how their feedback mechanism is, but I think that was the best thing that was done.
Thank you, Abra. In some parts of the country, we saw violence. We saw a bit of, particularly in the north, where protesters hijacked government properties, destroying traffic lights and all that. And then we saw them flying, Kano particularly, flying the Russian flag. And then the papers this morning, about 93 billion naira have been recovered, said to have been recovered, which happens to be funds for the protests. This is after the protest. Now, do you think that their political, like you rightly said, that their political undertones, maybe political undertones, but the papers reported that people have been arrested, bigwigs, political bigwigs who may be sponsoring this protest have been arrested, no names yet, and then funds have been recovered. Do you think that these people were funding, there were people behind funding the protests to be violent?
Okay, so normally, once a good intention is set out, bad people will always infiltrate that. I think the notice was given to government. If I was part of the advisory council to the government, we should have put a mechanism in place. Because whether you like it or not, good intent be misinterpreted. And politicians will always maximize every opportunity they have to spoil things in this country. And I think the right thing that should have been done would have been, in every step, we should have had a government person who is checking who are the spring leaders, the heads of this protest, because they are always coordinators. And what was the attempt to talk to them? Now, what is our protection to, because you see, protest is supposed to be an organized thing. And the protesters did not also build a protective wall against violence and politicians hijacking their plans.
Isn't it the job of the security agencies to protect
No.
protesters?
That's a different thing. That's protecting them.
Protecting to avoid people hijacking.
No, you see, protest itself must have a structure. If you want to air your views to government, you must have a structure, you must have machineries, you must have people who foresee things like that. Personally, I knew there was going to be violence because that's our area. Back then, over 25 years ago, when we were activists and on the street, we could predict those things. But you see, the key thing is now, who are those hijacking this? And that's what government should look at. But also protesters, if you plan a protest, you must also build your defensive mechanism because definitely somebody will hijack it.
All right, let's not dwell on that issue that's already happened. So we're looking at what's the way forward. The president in his broadcast reiterated that subsidy has gone. I mean, he has reiterated over and over again that it's not going in back. And it is that the issue of fuel is an issue. That's that particular policy, that single statement that day of his inauguration had caused a lot to the country. Many people who were at the middle class has gone to the very lower level, dragging a lot of Nigerians to the poor class and hardship in the country. People are protesting for hunger, people are agitating for hardship. So do you feel that there is more to have been done other than removing subsidy?
Well, I personally think that that statement should have been put on hold on that day. I think a team of experts and professionals and experienced people in this field should have been brought in, and a 3 to 4 months committee to come up with a resolution before the decision. Because once you take, a decision or make a statement, it affects the whole market. Today, the hardship is bad and terrible. And right now, I believe if you go to the streets, after the protest, the prices of fuel have gone up to show that the protest did not have effect. It even worsened the situation. Now, the key question is, was there feedback to the government? Because the problem is, government are good, they have good intentions, but sometimes in leadership, you need a feedback mechanism. You need people who are not truly politicians, who will be on the streets, and they are to feed you on the reality of things happening.
Do you feel they were ready to receive feedback? Because all what we heard from government was shun the protest, tell your children not to go on protest and all of that. So it was a way of them, discouraging the protest. So do you feel they were ready for feedback?
So now the key thing is, does government have conflict resolution experts who are advising them? That's a conflict, and it needs to be resolved, and you can't resolve that except you sit on a round table. Right now, once you are defensive, you won't listen. In leadership, you must have people the public don't know who give you sincere feedbacks. Sometimes can be your friend who won't call you honorable, who will call you by your name, laugh with you, and tell you the streets don't like you. This is what is happening. This is the fuel price. This is the biting things happening in the economy. Outside that, nothing comes to leadership in Nigeria because they filter what you know. They filter what you hear. They can protect you from the reality of what is happening on ground. And if you're not careful, they can only feed you with wrong information. So people love you, people celebrate you. But that's not the reality. And so in leadership, even as me, I have feedbacks because that's when you will now know you are not trying. Except there are feedbacks, everyone around government houses, from the state, local government, and the presidency, are psychophants. They lie to government. They tell you, oh, you are the best, everybody loves you. But that's not the reality of ground.
This brings me to talk about what people have said. We've had a lot of groups come out, the CNGs, Coalition of Northern Groups, and other analysts who have come out and said, you know what, the people in President Tinubu's cabinet, his tax committee and economic committee members as well, are not doing enough in terms of the advices and policies are not have brought us where we are, so they're not sustainable. Do you agree with that line of thought?
300%.
And then what's the way forward, moving forward?
Well,
What do you think that it should be? Yes.
So see, the reality is this. First is you are to govern people. You are working for the people, not the president. When your mindset is about working for the president alone, you won't protect the citizenry. But if you know you are there to advise the president to move the country forward, you would take empathy into that office. Empathy is gone. People don't have sympathy again for what is happening on the streets. The real truth is, if Nigeria will really change, and you want to feel if that is true, after this TV program, walk into the market. If you go on a Monday, the prices of things will be different by Tuesday. That's the reality. And that's why the people complaining are feeling the pain. The people in their big executive tinted cars are not feeling it. They don't buy fuel, they don't line, they don't go to the local markets. People do that for them, so they don't feel the pain of the people. And when they're reporting back, where did they get their reports from? Is it the streets, is it the market, or the executive offices? So the report given back to the president is from an executive point of view, not the realistic point of view. So first, I support that. It was not done properly. And now what is the way forward? The way forward is all those advising the president should wear casuals, short knickers, simple clothes.
Did you go out to the street?
Oh, come on. That's where the reality of life is.
Are you not bothered about that security? Because
no, let me shock you.
They're not even safe.
Once you are nice to the people become your security. You don't need security people around. And truth is, by the time you relate with the people and they know you are actually working for their good, they will protect you, they will defend you. And if you fall into people, one of them will always defend you. That's the reality. So the key thing is they should come down from their high horses. You will never, Nigeria is divided into two, the high and mighty and the street. You need to go back to the streets. You know, wear clothes, if you can, wear face caps that cover your personality. But try to go to where they sit, where they eat, and feel them. Before, I don't know if DSS are still doing that, but back then, DSS used to sit in joints in markets to hear feedbacks. And then they would tell the government, oh, this is what is happening. This is the people's thoughts. These are their pains. And I think they should always allow the security people to still do that, to sit with the people and take feedbacks to the government. Hey, there's going to be a protest. This is their pain. This is and that should have been addressed even before that.
So do you feel it's an illusion when the president and the other government said, we understand the pains you're going through, we understand the challenges, give us some time, we'll resolve the issue, we'll solve the problem. Do you feel that is not matching to what they are also doing?
Well, you know, it's one thing saying things from your lips, it's another thing living up to the reality. When they say that, that is when one or two realistic informations are given to them. And that is just to cushion the anger of the people, but not to go into the realistic reforms. For example, they've given power to the local government, monies will be. What are the policies they have also aligned with that release of money to protect the citizenry? If not, you are just empowering the local government chairman. What accountability policies have been put in place to make sure that the money that leaves the federal to the local government are accounted for, and they are used other than buying cars and houses? Those are the realistic things we should look at. Even in Abuja here, if you look at filling station, everybody decides to sell their fuel at their own decided price. Are there no feedbacks to those policymakers? Fuel should be pegged at a certain price. People sell $6.90, some $8.25. They decide whatever. It shows that the policymakers are not following up on what they decided on.
In August now, today August, would make President Bola Tinubu's term in office 14 months. It will be approximately 14 months. And one of the things he has always reiterated has been time. They need time for these policies to be properly implemented. How much time is good enough for us to begin to see a clear pathway as to where we're headed? Do you think that he still needs more time for Nigeria to?
Well, the first reality is that being a president is a hot seat. But also, what can cut the time is putting the right people in the workforce. If you surround yourself with just politicians, they are after money. You need to go back to the university. You need to go back to the economic sectors and bring professionals who are basically not professionals, who have empathy for Nigeria, who believe there should be improvement. Until the right people are put in place to advise a leader, definitely we will still go into error. I would request Nigerians to still give him time, but at the end of 2 years, you should be able to do one or two things to show that all the things you said, all the things you promised Nigeria, if not at least 40% or 50%, we want to see it. That's why they gave him a 4-year term. But the 1 year is short, but then it's not that bad. You can use 6 months to change a lot of things. So for me, I would still ask if Nigerians can be patient to the end of 2 years. And that's when we will see. Outside that, you will still keep asking for time and second term.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll take a quick break now. And when we return, we'll look at some of the reforms and policies for discussion. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team. Well, at the presidential villa yesterday, the council passed a vote of confidence on the president, meaning that many Nigerians should keep giving the president the support, the needed support to transform the country, just as he had promised, how he hits the ground running from day one. But the issue of bad governance, Apostle, issue of people, the president said, I inherited a bad economy. It looks like the 8 years of Buhari was probably not better. So I'm trying to fix some issue. I'm trying to fix issue of People's Democratic Party. And PDP will tell you a dollar was good, over $200 at that time and all of that. The issues of trying to fall back, blaming others, do you feel is workable, or should we also should we also draw the attention of the past leaders to what the reforms they did in the country?
Well, thank you. If I'm to draw the answer, it's going to come from the Bible. The Bible says, thou art inexcusable, O man. If you dwell on excuses, you won't take full responsibility. From the day you were sworn in, I also believe that from the day you win election, there should be a 3 months training for whoever should lead a country. But I don't think they do that. There should be 3 months, not less than. From February elections before May, there should be a 3 months. They should teach you.
But Tinubu didn't need training because he has been a governor of the state in Lagos. He said, I transformed Lagos and all of that.
So that is the mistake. Lagos is not Nigeria. This is over 36 plus 1, Abuja, 37. It's enormous. It's tasking. It needs your full health standard concentration. So the key thing is, I would also give my vote of confidence that we should allow time. But then the right team should be brought in. I can tell you, you can't change Nigeria just working with politicians. It won't change. And number two, if you keep blaming, bad governance, if it was that bad, don't contest. If anyone in government says there's no money, things are not working, resign. That's the reality. But the truth is, you knew you could do better. That's why you accepted that task.
You applied for the job.
You applied for the job. You ran for elections. You gave us certain things during the primaries, what you would do. And I think the reality is different from promises. When you sit outside leadership, you always would see the solution. But when you come in, it's like a cloud.
Is there anything, because somebody was saying, when you go into Aso Rock, it probably may change.
Definitely, some of us, definitely, we've had 1 or 2 calls, hey, pray for this person. Even when, back then, as a governor, the security teams would call me, hey, you're not praying for your governor. Sometimes he takes decision, we think it's not him. And that's why we, in the clergy, we pray for leadership. Because once you enter, those who are using jazz, those who are using things in their mouth to come confuse you, so that they can run the country. That's why sometimes I don't blame just the president. Once you enter this hot seat, it's terrible. Sometimes I think they don't even sleep enough. Because from all states, bombardment of issues. So what you need to do is to have a wall of defense. And what is that wall? You must have advisors outside politicians who would sometimes put you in check and tell you, sir, this is not right, this is not. And then every leadership must permit people to argue with them. In Nigeria, we don't argue with leadership. Even God permits us to argue with him. And that's the mistake. Some people in power don't want anybody to argue with them. And 1 or 2 politicians who are my friends, they know that's the first thing. Once we sit, we talk about government, then I say, let me tell you the reality. And they will try to, I say, leave your honorable title out of this. Let me tell you the reality. Because until there are people who look at you without seeing you as honorable, see you as a friend, they won't tell you the truth. Because the other side is you can get offended and block them from coming. So the key thing is we should allow the president, but he should restructure his advisory team. Politicians should be there. That's fantastic. But the truth is there are people outside this politics. That's the mistake of Nigeria. When you want to make policies, some years ago, I was invited for a youth policy, and everybody were from 50, 60, 70. And I said it won't work. Because the real truth is you are not having any input from the younger generation. And by the time you sit down and take decisions without the right people, you can't get it right. Number two, how many young people are brought into an advisory team of government? When I say young, if you check before, Union Bank, First Bank in the 80s, they were all old people. When the younger banks came in, they employed 27, 30. Managers were 35. Some were 30. Innovations came, change came. The reality is that when you do, for example, the votes yesterday, how many young people were there? How many compliance tech people were there? The truth is you can't be running Nigeria as if we are in the 80s. And when you make a statement in the public, you have to understand that this is a tech generation. Everybody's recording what you say. And by the time you come to say another thing, they all have records of what you said. So the key thing is end bad governance didn't start today. But end bad governance can be changed.
At the spot. Now, he has taken a lot of reforms after he had, removed subsidy. He brought palliative to state to distribute to Nigerians. He shared over 570 billion as at last count to state and all of that allocations, grants to farmers and all of this, just to cushion the effect of the hardship. Don't you think it's enough?
No. What were the follow-up policies on this? For example, let me tell you the truth. If you give grains through government, did they get to the right people? That's what you should follow. You sent a lot of palliative monies. Did you follow up on that? The key thing is, if you look at it, I have been in government, I have seen so many things. For example, you give 30 bags of rice through a government official. He keeps 15. He keeps 15 to himself. He can afford that rice. And then these 15 remaining goes back to politicians, not the real farmers.
Political parties.
Of course, we run the country like a political party. If I'm a president of APC, 90% people in PDP are not carried along. 90% people in other parties are not carried along. That's still a political party. That's not government.
Well, we feel that after elections, they should drop issue of politics.
In fact, what I should appreciate President Tinubu is the inclusion of the FCT minister and not asking him to resign from his party. That's governance. But that is 1:2. We should have, there are so many intelligent people in PDP. There are so many intelligent people in other parties. This is not political time. Bring them in. Bring their inputs. You want to send palliatives, have a tax team go into the communities. Who are the real farmers? Who are the real ABCD? Have their names and then ask government to submit their own names. You cross-examine. And then you put policies to check and announce to the public, hey, this amount of money was given, and hold your government accountable. That's when people will stop protesting that the presidency is bad. Because sometimes the worst set of people are governors. Now that you are pushing so much monies to local government, was there a training on them? If somebody wins a local government chairman, has there been a proper training on financial management and accountability? It's not done. So as long as you push in palliatives, people look at it as a source of wealth for themselves. So we should also, he's doing his best, but he should follow up on those things. Sometimes a governor gives somebody money, 2 million. The actual money that gets to the person is 200,000. And that is what government should look at. For example, I'll give you an example. In America, during the virus thing, monies were sent to different groups of people. But most of the monies were collected 2 times. They had a tax team who followed up, and everyone who collected those, let me call them palliatives so that we understand, were arrested after them. You can't take that money 2 times. You must take one. The other one belongs to another person. There's always a follow-up team that monitors if this is done right. Apart from EFCC, EFCC is just waiting for people to misuse the money. We should also have an arm that works for the government who follows up on the execution of the things the presidency had released money for. That's when you'll be surprised. That is when you will know that 90% of the things released at the top doesn't get to where it's supposed to be.
Some governors have to hoard some of these palliatives from federal government.
Governors, commissioners, everything. In fact, if you really want to know the truth, if you release 1 billion to a community, only 100 million will get to that community. Those who takes their cut, their portions, before it gets there, it's of no use again. That is the most important thing we should follow. Okay, Nigeria puts a policy. Who follows up if it's done right? Before in the 80s, early 90s, if you are given a road contract, there will be a Ministry of Works team who will follow up to check the quality of work. We should keep doing that. And now you check the quality of works that is done in Nigeria, you'll be amazed. In Abuja, most of the houses should be checked before approval. Because you approve a building, you don't send your team to check whether the foundation is done properly. That is what Nigeria needs, a follow-up policy team. When the president says, I have released 500 billion to Imo, to here, there should be a team who follows up. And there should be an accountability team who now reports back to the president. Your 500 million didn't go the way you wanted. So the next executive meeting, he knows who to talk to. Because if you don't, at the end of leadership, talk back to people who are not doing well, then it's not leadership. Governors should be cautioned. The monies we sent to you didn't go the right channel to which we sent it for. What did you do with the money? You've released money to local government. I bet you they will buy houses everywhere.
So we are not even prepared for this local government autonomy, because even looking at the elections, we've been seeing some major party, the ruling party, taking all the positions in the local government and all of that. Issue of local autonomy is also questionable.
The mistake is, for example, in my state, who is going to conduct the election? If I choose who conducts election, then the truth is he will answer to me. There won't be elections. There will be picking. So
there are those that will say INEC is not even better, because INEC have also conducted elections, so it's not even better.
The truth is, to choose whoever should be INEC chairman, it should be a debate, and it should be open to all parties to send in their people, because if I choose you, you will answer to me. That's the truth. The local government election should be taken out of the power of the state government.
But Jonathan had an INEC chairman, probably never met with the INEC chairman. And he conducted the election, and he failed the election, and he accepted defeat. Don't you think that that's a role model to probably other leaders to follow?
So how many people learned from that? Nigeria don't learn from past leadership. That's the truth. Goodluck set a leadership, model that so many people, but we didn't say it like that. The truth is, if you remember his language, he said, no blood of Nigerian is worth. He wanted to see change. He wanted to see. But you see, Nigerians don't like good people. We like bad people.
They want to change, probably.
Yes, because that's why he allowed the elections to be free and fair. But the truth is, Nigeria felt the next person coming will do better.
With a change mantra.
A change mantra, but the truth is, he didn't prepare himself for it. He was after the power, but not after governance. I think we should have a leadership institution in Nigeria. How many of our legislators are trained? Not that one-week thing, because they don't attend. That's just a money-making event. They say, oh, to be a senator, 1 week training. They don't listen to those trainings. There should be exams set to them. There should be a level of education given to them. These are ABCs, these are the, and most of our leadership should be trained on public speaking. There are things you don't say in the public, there are things you don't react in the public. None of these are done. Do you expect Nigeria to get better? And that's why people will wake up from primary 2 and contest election. After all, if Godfather picks me, I win. what is his level of exposure, knowledge, and training to fit into that office? We have a House of Reps member who attend their sittings but never make one statement for 4 years because somebody picked them there. They are not representing the community, they are representing the godfather who picked them there. And that's what we should look at. Reform should get to that level, and Nigeria will move forward.
I do want to take us back to the palliative system as one of President Tinubu's reforms, trying to cushion the effects of hardship and hunger. And like you rightly said about implementation, the middlemen follow through proper monitoring and evaluating of how these items, these palliatives are shared.
Yes.
Of a truth, we saw in the papers that these palliatives that were distributed, the bags of rice, trucks of rice that were given to states, we saw visuals of where they were rebagged and complaints from it not getting to
the right
grassroots.
Yes.
Away from that, how effective is the palliative system?
For how long?
How long
would you continue?
Will this continue? Is this any better? Should we look at other means other than, continuing to give out, these palliatives?
Well, palliatives is good if it's follow-up because it's just to cushion a temporary pressure. But the truth is, without follow-up, it won't work. A few days ago, Dangote sent rice and palliatives to some states. It went through churches. Why didn't he send it through government? He knows it won't get to the people. In Anambra, a priest was coordinating it. And the truth is, he will get to the grassroots. Because why didn't Dangote use? Because these people know the truth. Most of our government officials know the truth. Palliatives are good if it's follow-up. I can tell you in my state, there was a time the governor said he wants to bring a way of helping the masses, taxi system. But 99% of the cars were collected by politicians, their brothers, and they were never used as taxi system. And that's where the mistake comes from. If you want to run a taxi, you go to the park. You go to already existing taxi bodies and use the people, change their cars. The system will work. If you want to send palliatives or to farmers, you must go back and have your real reality, which is go to the grassroots. Who is a farmer in this community? Who is a farmer in this community? That is when things will change. And at the end, how many of the market women collected these palliatives? None. It will be government, sisters, brothers, cousins, and at the end, that's why the real protest is hunger. And the key thing is, the palliatives, did it get to those people? No. If it did 1%, and I can challenge it, if it goes high, it won't exceed 5% of what was released from the top. So that is what should be done. As a leader, that's what I do. And you see, let me say something. When I was in leadership, I had 2-3 people I employed who gives me feedback. First is on public speaking. First is on giving my speech out for someone to vet. And they would say, oh, this is too harsh, this is not right, this is not. And in the place I'm going to make a statement, I have people that will be at the corner to signal me if I'm trying to goof or go out of what was written. Either I sign on the face and you know you are saying the wrong thing. You go back to the right page. Today, nobody is doing that. Because when you are after helping the people, you put mechanism, because power is very intoxicating. It can drive you crazy. It can make you flog your mother if you're not careful. So what you do is to surround yourself with shock absorbers, people who tell you, hey, let's have time. Not always politicians, not people who will cheer you every time. Because when you surround yourself with sycophants, they will tell you you are the best thing that has happened. You are the best thing that has happened. And they keep singing your praise. And you go back and feel good, whereas the masses are not saying the same thing.
All right. Now, another concern has been on our institution. We have, many policies of government, many bills, laws, and all of that to address some of these issues we have in the country. Looking at our institution, like we mentioned, the price control, consumer protection body is there, but they're not functional. And all other bodies you can mention of, do you feel that they are doing enough to support the policies on grounds to be implemented, owing to the fact that this is what ought to drive some of these development and implementation of government policies and laws?
Okay, so now, I don't know if I should mention, there are airlines that are grounded today because of certain policies. There is an airline, before they gas their plane, they have to call manager has to call MD has to give authorization.
Long bureaucracies.
Most of those institutions are not independent. They should be funded. They don't need to, every little thing they want to do, they have to write for approval. They should be funded. They should put the right people in place who know this thing, we are doing it for the betterment of our president of the country. And they should work independent without interference of anyone and interference of political parties, giving them instructions on what to do. Most of those institutions bring the right policies, but then one or two calls can say, hey, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. And once there is an overriding person to these institutions, you won't allow them the freedom to do what they ought to do.
Thank you very much, Apostle. Let me ask you, as regards security, the area of security. For President Tinubu's first few months in office, one of the things he did was to change service chiefs, and we've seen a lot of reforms in the area of security. But how effective have these reforms been in combating banditry, insurgency, and some of the crimes that we see now?
Whether you like it or not, our security teams are fantastic. But you see, the reality is also they have limitations. They must take instructions before they act. If you give a go-ahead today to the military, navy, security, customs, fish out this person, they can do that in 24 hours. But what if they fish out the person and there's an overriding call? Don't go there. It weakens them. A few days ago, I saw
cases where there are overriding calls like that.
You don't want me to say that here, but I can tell you, I've been in the system for a while. I can tell you. For example, if I was a security chief and a few days ago, some military persons were brought down, in less than 48 hours, I'll pick all the people involved out. And trust me, Nigerians have such facilities to do that. The military can do that. But this is 1 week plus. Nothing has been brought to the public. A, B, C, D, E, F. You are weakening them. Our DSS are fantastic people. They know what to do. If they are set to catch you, nothing will stop them. But the key thing is, are they allowed freedom to do their security work without interference? And so once that happens, what do? You keep quiet.
In essence, we have the capacity to have, apprehended Boko Haram.
It doesn't take 48 hours. I mean 48 hours.
To combat it.
See, the truth is, we know where they are. The security teams know where these people are. They know how to cut them off. But the truth is, it's part of politics.
All right, let me take you to the issue of student loan. The president, part of his administration achievement so far is the fact that he has given granted student loan. And recently, EFCC had to give 50 billion naira to the commission, the agency in charge of distributing all of that. Do you feel that, that's workable, giving loan to students, and of course, now upon graduation, they are expected to pay back, and they are concerned about job creation, they are concerned about enabling environment for people to work and even pay back this loan? Or do you feel that, it's something that after 4 or 8 years, another government administration may truncate such initiatives?
Those are things the Senate should put as a law. Nigeria can be a great country without loan. Giving loans to its citizens, to students, to businessmen, businesswomen. That is one of the policies we should put in place. Once you see an establishing firm trying and they have potential, put money there. That's how this country will move forward. If you travel abroad, 90% students have loans. And we should be able to now know how to send the loan to the right people. What qualifies someone to access this loan? Are they real students or they are ghost names? That's number one. Number two is we should make a policy to favor corpers. If it's compulsory for graduates to go for youth service, we should create an absorbment for them. Imagine, let me say statistically, if 1 million corpers went in and 600, at least 600 were absorbed. Do you know you have sent out starvation, poverty in 600 families? We should look at not just sending them, we should create opportunity. Because if you give them loan, how do they pay back? You must look at an absorption. And we should cut off this ideology that you must have 15 years experience. That's why Nigeria is also not moving forward. There are things on, DSTVs and the rest of them, Netflix, I'm struggling with. And I call my son, 10 years, hey, come fix this. These guys are better than our generation. They are sharper, they are tech. If you inject them into systems, into federal government systems, state systems, local government, you will see changes. That is why the banks are moving. Many years ago, there were no apps. Many years ago, you couldn't transfer money except you go to bank. But you see, that's the input of younger generation in the system of banking. If we do same, most of our corpers are fantastic. They don't need many years of experience. You just need to take that risk and allow most of them. These guys are good. And where there is no absorption and provisions for work, how do they pay back? So the loan is a long-awaited thing and should never be changed.
Well said. I'm just going to ask you this last question in the area of healthcare and the healthcare sector. Recently, President Tinubu approved a policy to retain healthcare workers and stop workforce migration. And we've had lots of reactions as to why would medical practitioners not be able to, migrate to greener pastures. And also we see that there's a 200% increase in NHIS and people pay from their pockets now, and they're unable to access quality healthcare facilities. What is your assessment in these areas?
Well, you see, sometimes when we take decisions as politicians, we don't think. One day you will leave government. One day you will leave government, and the same policy you made will affect you or your child or your grandchild. You can't stop doctors moving because the system in Nigeria is not working for them. Most of them are just there to survive. The same doctor in Nigeria travels abroad and is treated like a king. If you go into our hospitals, you will see the pain. During the COVID-19, what was the special provision given to doctors? Most of them died in the course of duty. Was there a special package for their family? Those who died in the course of protecting others? There should be welfare packages for these people. Nobody wants to travel abroad. I believe Nigeria is the best country in the world if we put things right. We have best weather. We have, oh my God, you enjoy Nigeria if things are in place. And in the health sector, we should grow to the point, of course, if you go to the hospital without first buying card, nobody takes care of you. That's only in Nigeria. In other places, they first attend to your health before. So when doctors are happy, they will be happy to take care of their patients. Their package should not be not negotiable. Don't go there. These people, if you have ever been in the hospital on a Sunday morning or Monday to see the emergencies that come in, it's terrible. And some of them work overnight. What's the package back to them? So the health sector should be paid attention. And two, government should look at pumping money into the hospitals and then follow through whether the money sent to buy ABC has been bought. I can tell you in my state, if you want to do some MIR scan, only one hospital in a state of over 5 million people. Oxygen, sometimes you have to go buy your own and bring. So the key thing is, if we pay more attention to our health sectors, we'll reduce the mortality rate and things will get better.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time
you.
with us, Apostle Yeneme Andy. If you've just joined us, we have been speaking with Apostle Yeneme Andy, who is the former youth leader, CAD International, and he's been taking us through federal government reforms, his assessments and contributions. Well, that's how much time will permit us to take on today's episode of Global Morning. Do make it a date with us tomorrow, as we're joined by myself and Anthony Momodu. Thank you for watching. I am Queen Agaba and my co-host,
Michael. Thanks so much for staying with us on the program this morning. See you again. Bye.